Tell me of the man, Muse, the man of many turns, who wandered far after sacred Troy had fallen. He saw the cities of many people and learned the minds of men. On the sea he suffered, fighting to save his own life and bring his companions home. But even he could not save them. Their own recklessness destroyed them when they touched the cattle of the sun. So the god took from them the day of their return. At last, after many years, the gods turned their thoughts toward Ithaca. Even there, among his own people, his troubles would not be finished. All the gods had begun to pity him, except Poseidon, who still drove him over the sea and kept him from home. Now Poseidon had gone off to the Ethiopians, who are at the world's end, and lie in two halves, the one looking west and the other east. He had gone there to accept a great sacrifice of sheep and oxen, and was enjoying himself at his festival. Hermes had warned him in good faith, but he would not listen. Now he has paid the full price. Then Athena said, "Father Zeus, son of Cronos, Aegisthus deserved his end, and so would any man who acted as he did. But Aegisthus is not the one I grieve for. My heart is for Odysseus, when I think of his suffering in that lonely, sea-ringed island, far away, alone, from all his friends. It is an island covered with forest, in the middle of the sea, and a goddess lives there, daughter of Atlas, who knows the depths of the sea and holds the great pillars that keep sky and earth apart. Father, you give no thought to this. And yet, when Odysseus was before Troy, did he not honor you with many a burnt sacrifice? Why then should you keep on being so angry with him?" And Zeus said, "My child, what do you mean? How could I forget Odysseus? No man on earth is more capable than he, nor more generous in his offerings to the immortal gods that live in the sky. But remember, Poseidon is still furious with Odysseus for having blinded an eye of Polyphemus, king of the Cyclopes. Polyphemus is son to Poseidon by the nymph Theusa, daughter to the sea king Phorcys." Then Athena said, "I will go to Ithaca and put courage into Telemachus, the son of Odysseus. I will give him courage to call the Greeks in assembly and speak out to Penelope's suitors, who persist in eating up his sheep and oxen. I will send him to Pylos and Sparta to see if he can hear anything about the return of his dear father, so that men will speak well of him." So saying, she bound on her golden sandals, undying, with which she can fly like the wind over land or sea. There she found the suitors seated on hides of the oxen which they had killed and eaten, and playing games in front of the house. Servants moved around them, some mixing wine with water in the mixing bowls, some cleaning down the tables with wet sponges and laying them out again, and some cutting up great quantities of food. Telemachus saw the stranger before anyone else. He sat among the suitors with his mind on his father, and how he would send them flying out of the house if he were to come to his own again and be honored as in days gone by. Inside, Telemachus took the stranger's spear and set it in the spear stand beside the weapons of his absent father. And he led her to a richly decorated seat under which he threw a fine cloth. There was a footstool also for her feet, and he set another seat near her for himself, away from the suitors, that she might not be annoyed while eating by their noise and arrogance, and that he might ask her more freely about his father. A servant woman then brought them water in a beautiful golden jug and poured it into a silver basin for them to wash their hands, and she drew a clean table beside them. At once servants poured water over their hands, servant women went round with the bread baskets, pages filled the mixing bowls with wine and water. And they laid their hands upon the food set before them. When the suitors had eaten and drunk enough, they called for music and dancing, the final honors of a feast. So a servant brought a lyre to Phemius, whom they forced to sing for them. When Phemius touched the lyre and began to sing, Telemachus leaned close to Athena and spoke so that no one else could hear. "Stranger," said he, "I hope you will not be offended with what I am going to say. If these men saw my father return to Ithaca, they would pray for faster legs, not heavier purses. Money would not save them. But he has fallen into darkness, and even when people do sometimes say that he is coming, we no longer believe them. We think we shall never see him again. And now, sir, tell me, and tell me truly, who you are and where you come from. Tell me of your town and parents, what kind of ship you came in, how your crew brought you to Ithaca, and from what people they declared themselves to be, for you cannot have reached this island by land. My ship is anchored outside the town, by the fields, in the harbor below the wooded hill. Our fathers were friends before us, as old Laertes will tell you if you ask him. But they say Laertes no longer comes to town. He lives alone in the country, poorly cared for, with only an old woman to bring him food when he comes in tired from working among his vines. I came because men said your father was home again, but it seems the gods are still holding him back. He is not dead, not on the mainland, not yet. But tell me, and tell me truly, can Odysseus really have such a fine-looking fellow for a son? You are indeed wonderfully like him about the head and eyes, for we were close friends before he set sail for Troy, where the flower of all the Greeks went also. Since that time we have never either of us seen the other." "My mother," answered Telemachus, "tells me I am son to Odysseus, but it is a wise child that knows his own father. Have you some banquet, or is there a wedding in the family? For no one seems to be bringing any provisions of his own. And the guests, how atrociously they are behaving. What riot they make over the whole house. It is enough to disgust any respectable person who comes near them." "Sir," said Telemachus, "as regards your question, so long as my father was here, it was well with us and with the house. But the gods, in their displeasure, have willed it otherwise, and have hidden him away more closely than mortal man was ever yet hidden. Nor does the matter end simply with grief for the loss of my father. The gods has laid sorrows upon me of yet another kind. For the chiefs from all our islands, Dulichium, Same, and the woodland island of Zacynthus, as also all the principal men of Ithaca itself, are eating up my house under the pretext of paying their court to my mother, who will neither point-blank say that she will not marry, nor yet bring matters to an end. So they are making havoc of my estate, and before long will do so also with myself." "Is that so?" exclaimed Athena. "Then you do indeed want Odysseus home again?" "Ilus feared the ever-living gods, and would not give him any. But my father let him have some, for he was very fond of him. If Odysseus is the man he then was, these suitors will have a short shrift and a sorry wedding. But there, it rests with the sky to determine whether he is to return and take his revenge in his own house or no. I would, however, urge you to set about trying to get rid of these suitors at once. Take my advice. Call the Achaean heroes in assembly tomorrow morning. Lay your case before them, and call the sky to bear you witness. Someone may give you news, or you may hear a message from Zeus, as men often do. First go to Pylos and ask Nestor. From there go on to Sparta and visit Menelaus, for he got home last of all the Greeks. If you hear that your father is alive and on his way home, you can put up with the waste these suitors will make for yet another 12 months. If, on the other hand, you hear of his death, come home at once, celebrate his funeral rites with all due pomp, build a barrow to his memory, and make your mother marry again. Now, however, I must go back to my ship and to my crew, who will be impatient if I keep them waiting longer. Think the matter over for yourself, and remember what I have said to you." "Sir," answered Telemachus, "it has been very kind of you to talk to me in this way, as though I were your own son, and I will do all you tell me. I know you want to be getting on with your voyage, but stay a little longer till you have taken a bath and refreshed yourself. I will then give you a present, and you shall go on your way rejoicing." He felt the change, wondered at it, and knew that the stranger had been a god, so he went straight to where the suitors were sitting. Phemius was still singing, and his hearers sat wrapped in silence as he told the sad tale of the return from Troy and the ills Athena had laid upon the Greeks. Penelope, daughter of Icarius, heard his song from her room upstairs, and came down by the great staircase, not alone, but attended by 2 of her serving women. When she reached the suitors, she stood by one of the bearing posts that supported the roof of the cloisters, with a staid maiden on either side of her. She held a veil, moreover, before her face, and was weeping bitterly. "Sing the suitors one of these other songs, and let them drink their wine in silence. But stop this sad tale. It breaks my sorrowful heart and brings back the husband I mourn without ceasing, whose name was known across Hellas and Middle Argos." "Mother," answered Telemachus, "let the bard sing what his heart moves him to sing. Bards do not create the grief they sing of. It is Zeus who sends good and evil to mankind, according to his own will. The singer means no harm by singing the bitter return of the Greeks. People always praise the newest song most warmly." Then, going upstairs with her serving women into her room, she mourned her dear husband till Athena shed sweet sleep over her eyes. But the suitors were clamorous throughout the covered cloisters, and prayed each one that he might be her bedfellow. Then Telemachus spoke. "Shameless," he cried, "and arrogant suitors, let us feast at our pleasure now, and let there be no brawling, for it is a rare thing to hear a man with such a divine voice as Phemius has. But in the morning, meet me in full assembly, that I may give you formal notice to depart, and feast at one another's houses, turn and turn about, at your own cost." Then Antinous, son of Eupeithes, said, "The gods seem to have given you lessons in bluster and tall talking. May Zeus never grant you to be chief in Ithaca, as your father was before you." Telemachus answered, "Antinous, do not chide with me, but, God willing, I will be chief too if I can. Is this the worst fate you can think of for me? It is no bad thing to be a chief, for it brings both riches and honor. Still, now that Odysseus is dead, there are many great men in Ithaca, both old and young, and some other may take the lead among them." "Has he brought you news about the return of your father? Or was he on business of his own? He seemed a well-to-do man, but he hurried off so suddenly that he was gone in a moment before we could get to know him." "My father is dead and gone," answered Telemachus, "and even if some rumour reaches me, I put no more faith in it now. My mother does indeed sometimes send for a soothsayer and question him, but I give his prophesyings no heed. As for the stranger, he was Mentes, son of Anchialus, chief of the Taphians, an old friend of my father's." but in his heart he knew that it had been the goddess. Laertes had bought her with his own money when she was quite young. He gave the worth of 20 oxen for her, and showed as much respect to her and his household as he did to his own wedded wife. But he did not take her to his bed, for he feared his wife's resentment. She it was who now lighted Telemachus to his room, and she loved him better than any of the other women in the house did, for she had nursed him when he was a baby. He opened the door of his bedroom and sat down upon the bed. Now, when the child of morning, rosy-fingered dawn, appeared, Telemachus rose and dressed himself. He bound his sandals onto his comely feet, girded his sword about his shoulder, and left his room, looking like an immortal god. He at once sent the criers round to call the people in assembly, so they called them, and the people gathered then. Then, when they were got together, he went to the place of assembly spear in hand, not alone, for his 2 hounds went with him. Athena endowed him with a presence of such divine comeliness that all marveled at him as he went by. And when he took his place in his father's seat, even the oldest counselors made way for him. He had 3 sons left, of whom 2 still worked on their father's land, while the third, Eurynomus, was one of the suitors. Even so, their father could not get over the loss of Antiphus, and was still weeping for him when he began his speech. "Men of Ithaca," he said, "hear my words. From the day Odysseus left us, there has been no meeting of our counselors until now. Who, then, can it be, whether old or young, that finds it so necessary to convene us? Has he got wind of some host approaching, and does he wish to warn us? Or would he speak upon some other matter of public moment?" "I have not got wind of any host approaching, about which I would warn you. Nor is there any matter of public moment on which I would speak. My grievance is purely personal, and turns on 2 great misfortunes which have fallen upon my house. The first of these is the loss of my excellent father, who was chief among all you here present, and was like a father to every one of you. The second is much more serious, and before long will be the utter ruin of my estate. The sons of all the chief men among you are pestering my mother to marry them against her will. I shall never, all my days, be as good a man as he was. Still, I would indeed defend myself if I had power to do so, for I cannot stand such treatment any longer. My house is being disgraced and ruined. Have respect so to your own consciences and to public opinion. Fear, too, the wrath of the sky, lest the gods should be displeased and turn upon you. I beg you, by Zeus and Themis, do not leave me alone in this. Do not stand aside while the suitors destroy my house, unless it be that my brave father Odysseus did some wrong to the Greeks, which you would now avenge on me by aiding and abetting these suitors." Everyone was very sorry for him, but they all sat still, and no one ventured to make him an angry answer, save only Antinous, who spoke thus. "Telemachus, arrogant braggart that you are, how dare you try to throw the blame upon us suitors? It is your mother's fault, not ours, for she is a very artful woman. This 3 years past, and close on 4, she had been driving us out of our minds, by encouraging each one of us and sending him messages without meaning one word of what she says. And then there was that other trick she played us. He is very rich, and the women of the place will talk if he is laid out without a pall." This was what she said, and we assented. And then we could see her working on her great web all day long, but at night she would unpick the stitches again by torchlight. She fooled us in this way for 3 years, and we never found her out. But as time wore on, and she was now in her 4th year, one of her maids, who knew what she was doing, told us, and we caught her in the act of undoing her work, so she had to finish it whether she would or no. It was not fair of her to treat us in that way, and as long as she continues in the mind with which Sky has now endowed her, so long shall we go on eating up your estate. And I do not see why she should change, for she gets all the honor and glory, and it is you who pay for it, not she. Understand, then, that we will not go back to our lands, neither here nor elsewhere, till she has made her choice and married someone or other of us." Telemachus answered, "Antinous, how can I drive the mother who bore me from my father's house? My father is abroad, and we do not know whether he is alive or dead. If you choose to take offense at this, leave the house and feast elsewhere, at one another's houses, at your own cost, turn and turn about. If, on the other hand, you elect to persist in sponging upon one man, the sky help me, but Zeus shall reckon with you in full. And when you fall in my father's house, there shall be no man to avenge you." As he spoke, Zeus sent 2 eagles from the top of the mountain, and they flew on and on with the wind, sailing side by side in their own noble flight. The people wondered as they saw them, and asked each other what all this might be. And then Halitherses, who was the best prophet and reader of omens among them, spoke to them plainly and in all honesty, saying, "Hear me, men of Ithaca, and I speak more particularly to the suitors, for I see mischief brewing for them. Odysseus is not going to be away much longer. Indeed, he is close at hand to deal out death and destruction, not on them alone, but on many another of us who live in Ithaca. Let us then be wise in time, and put a stop to this wickedness before he comes. Let the suitors do so of their own accord. I can read these omens myself much better than you can. Birds are always flying about in the sunshine somewhere or other, but they seldom mean anything. Odysseus has died in a far country, and it is a pity you are not dead along with him, instead of prating here about omens and adding fuel to the anger of Telemachus, which is fierce enough as it is. I suppose you think he will give you something for your family, but I tell you, and it shall surely be, when an old man like you, who should know better, talks a young one over till he becomes troublesome, in the first place, his young friend will only fare so much the worse. Till then we shall go on harassing him with our suit, for we fear no man, and care neither for him with all his fine speeches, nor for any fortune-telling of yours. You may preach as much as you please, but we shall only hate you the more. We shall go back and continue to eat up Telemachus's estate without paying him, till such time as his mother leaves off tormenting us by keeping us day after day on the tiptoe of expectation, each vying with the other in his suit for a prize of such rare perfection. Someone may know something, or Zeus himself may send me a rumor, as the gods sometimes do. If I hear that my father is alive and on his way home, I will bear this waste for another year. But if I hear that he is dead, I will return at once. I will give him the funeral rites he deserves, raise a mound to his memory, and make my mother marry again." With that, Telemachus sat down. Then Mentor rose to speak. He had been Odysseus's friend, and Odysseus had left him in charge of the house. "I am not half so angry with the suitors. For if they choose to do violence in the naughtiness of their hearts, and wager their heads that Odysseus will not return, they can take the high hand and eat up his estate. But as for you others, I am shocked at the way in which you all sit still without even trying to stop such scandalous goings-on, which you could do if you chose, for you are many and they are few." Leocritus, son of Evenor, answered him, saying, "Mentor, what folly is all this, that you should set the people to stay us? It is a hard thing for one man to fight with many about his victuals. Now, so do you people go about your business, and let his father's old friends, Mentor and Halitherses, speed this boy on his journey, if he goes at all, which I do not think he will, for he is more likely to stay where he is, till someone comes and tells him something." On this he broke up the assembly, and every man went back to his own abode, while the suitors returned to the house of Odysseus. Then Telemachus went all alone by the seaside, washed his hands in the grey waves, and prayed to Athena. "If then you take after him, your voyage will not be fruitless. But unless you have the blood of Odysseus and of Penelope in your veins, I see no likelihood of your succeeding. Sons are seldom as good men as their fathers. They are generally worse, not better. Still, as you are not going to be either fool or coward henceforward, and are not entirely without some share of your father's wise discernment, I look with hope upon your undertaking. There are many ships in Ithaca, both old and new. I will run my eye over them for you, and will choose the best. We will get her ready, and will put out to sea without delay." Thus spoke Athena, daughter of Zeus, and Telemachus lost no time in doing as the goddess told him. He went moodily home, and found the suitors flaying goats and singeing pigs in the outer court. Antinous came to him at once, and laughed as he took his hand in his own, saying, "Telemachus, my fine fire-eater, bear no more ill blood, neither in word nor deed, but eat and drink with us as you used to do. Was it not enough that you should waste so much good property of mine while I was yet a boy? Now that I am older and know more about it, I am also stronger, and whether here among this people, or by going to Pylos, I will do you all the harm I can. I shall go, and my going will not be in vain, though, thanks to you suitors, I have neither ship nor crew of my own, and must be passenger, not captain." As he spoke, he snatched his hand from that of Antinous. Meanwhile, the others went on getting dinner ready about the buildings, jeering at him tauntingly as they did so. "In this case we should have plenty to do, for we could then divide up his property amongst us. As for the house, we can let his mother and the man who marries her have that." This was how they talked. But Telemachus went down into the lofty and spacious storeroom, where his father's treasure of gold and bronze lay heaped up upon the floor, and where the linen and spare clothes were kept in open chests. Here, too, there was a store of fragrant olive oil, while casks of old, well-ripened wine, unblended and fit for a god to drink, were ranged against the wall, in case Odysseus should come home again after all. "Let me have 12 jars, and see that they all have lids. Also fill me some well-sewn leathern bags with barley meal, about 20 measures in all. Get these things put together at once, and say nothing about it. I will take everything away this evening as soon as my mother has gone upstairs for the night. I am going to Sparta and to Pylos to see if I can hear anything about the return of my dear father." When Euryclea heard this, she began to cry, and spoke fondly to him, saying, "My dear child, whatever can have put such notion as that into your head? Your poor father is dead and gone, in some foreign country nobody knows where. And as soon as your back is turned, these wicked ones here will be scheming to get you put out of the way, and will share all your possessions among themselves. Stay where you are, among your own people, and do not go wandering and worrying your life out on the barren ocean." "Fear not, nurse," answered Telemachus. "My scheme is not without the sky's sanction. But swear that you will say nothing about all this to my mother, till I have been away some 10 or 12 days, unless she hears of my having gone and asks you." Soon the crew came up, and the goddess spoke encouragingly to each of them. Furthermore, she went to the house of Odysseus and threw the suitors into a deep slumber. She caused their drink to fuddle them and made them drop their cups from their hands, so that instead of sitting over their wine, they went back into the town to sleep, with their eyes heavy and full of drowsiness. Then she took the form and voice of Mentor and called Telemachus to come outside. "Telemachus," said she, "the men are on board and at their oars, waiting for you to give your orders, so make haste and let us be off." On this she led the way, while Telemachus followed in her steps. When they had brought the things as he told them, Telemachus went on board, Athena going before him and taking her seat in the stern of the vessel, while Telemachus sat beside her. Then the men loosed the hawsers and took their places on the benches. Athena sent them a fair wind from the west that whistled over the deep blue waves, and then Telemachus told them to catch hold of the ropes and hoist sail, and they did as he told them. They set the mast in its socket in the crossplank, raised it, and made it fast with the forestays. Then they hoisted their white sails aloft with ropes of twisted oxhide. But as the sun was rising from the fair sea into the firmament of the sky, to shed light on mortals and immortals, they reached Pylos, the city of Neleus. Now the people of Pylos were gathered on the seashore to offer sacrifice of black bulls to Poseidon, lord of the earthquake. There were 9 guilds, with 500 men in each, and there were 9 bulls to each guild. As they were eating the inward meats and burning the thigh bones on the embers in the name of Poseidon, Telemachus and his crew arrived, furled their sails, brought their ship to anchor, and went ashore. Athena led the way, and Telemachus followed her. I have never yet been used to holding long conversations with people, and am ashamed to begin questioning one who is so much older than myself. "Some things, Telemachus," answered Athena, "will be suggested to you by your own instinct, and the sky will prompt you further. For I am assured that the gods have been with you from the time of your birth until now." She then went quickly on, and Telemachus followed in her steps till they reached the place where the guilds of the Pylian people were assembled. There they found Nestor sitting with his sons, while his company round him were busy getting dinner ready, and putting pieces of food onto the spits while other pieces were cooking. Then he gave them their portions of the inward meats, and poured wine for them into a golden cup, handing it to Athena first, and saluting her at the same time. "Offer a prayer, sir," said he, "to King Poseidon, for it is his feast that you are joining. When you have duly prayed and made your drink offering, pass the cup to your friend, that he may do so also. I doubt not that he too lifts his hands in prayer, for man cannot live without God in the world. Still he is younger than you are, and is much of an age with myself, so I will give you the precedence." As he spoke, he handed her the cup. "Lastly, grant Telemachus and myself a happy issue, in respect of the matter that has brought us in our ship to Pylos." When she had thus made an end of praying, she handed the cup to Telemachus, and he prayed likewise. After a while, when the outer meats were roasted and had been taken off the spits, the carvers gave every man his portion, and they all made an excellent dinner. As soon as they had had enough to eat and drink, Nestor, knight of Gerene, began to speak. "Now," said he, "that our guests have done their dinner, it will be best to ask them who they are. Who then, sir strangers, are you, and from what port have you sailed?" "We come from Ithaca, and the matter about which I would speak is of private, not public import. I seek news of my unhappy father Odysseus, who is said to have sacked the city of Troy in company with yourself. We know what fate befell each one of the other heroes who fought at Troy. But as regards Odysseus, Sky has hidden from us the knowledge even that he is dead at all. For no one can tell us in what place he perished, nor say whether he fell in battle on the mainland or was lost at sea amid the waves of Amphitrite. If my brave father Odysseus ever did you loyal service either by word or deed, when you Greeks were harassed among the Trojans, bear it in mind now as in my favour, and tell me truly all. My friend, answered Nestor, you recall a time of much sorrow to my mind, for the brave Greeks suffered much both at sea while privateering under Achilles, and when fighting before the great city of King Priam. Our best men, all of them, fell there, Ajax, Achilles, Patroclus, peer of gods and counsel, and my own dear son Telemachus, a man singularly fleet of foot, and in fight valiant. But we suffered much more than this. What mortal tongue indeed could tell the whole story? He and I never had any kind of difference from first to last, neither in camp nor council. But in singleness of heart and purpose we advised the Greeks how all might be ordered for the best. When, however, we had sacked the city of Priam, and were setting sail in our ships as the sky had dispersed us, then Zeus saw fit to vex the Greeks on their homeward voyage. For they had not all been either wise or understanding, and from here many came to a bad end through the displeasure of Zeus's daughter Athena, who brought about a quarrel between the two sons of Atreus. Fool that he was! He might have known that he would not prevail with her, for when the gods have made up their minds, they do not change them lightly. So the two stood bandying hard words, and then the Greeks sprang to their feet with a cry that rent the air, and were of two minds as to what they should do. That night we rested and nursed our anger, for Zeus was hatching mischief against us. But in the morning some of us drew our ships into the water, and put our goods with our women on board, while the rest, about half in number, stayed behind with Agamemnon. We, the other half, embarked and sailed. The son of Tydeus went on also with me, and his crews with him. Later on Menelaus joined us at Lesbos, and found us making up our minds about our course, for we did not know whether to go outside Chios by the island of Syra, keeping this to our left, or inside Chios, over against the stormy headland of Mimas. So we asked the sky for a sign, and were shown one to the effect that we should be soonest out of danger if we headed our ships across the open sea to Euboea. So, my dear young friend, I returned without hearing anything about the others. I know neither who got home safely nor who were lost, but, as in duty bound, I will give you without reserve the reports that have reached me since I have been here in my own house. They say the Myrmidons returned home safely under Achilles' son Neoptolemus. So also did the valiant son of Poias, Philoctetes. Idomeneus, again, lost no men at sea, and all his followers who escaped death in the field got safe home with him to Crete. You too, then, for you are a tall, smart-looking fellow. Show your courage, and make yourself a name in story. Nestor, son of Neleus, answered Telemachus, honour to the Achaean name. The Greeks applaud Orestes, and his name will live through all time, for he has avenged his father nobly. Would that the sky might grant me to do like vengeance on the arrogance of the wicked suitors, who are ill-treating me and plotting my ruin. Athena openly favoured your father before Troy. If she were to care for you in the same way, these suitors would soon forget their courting. Telemachus answered, I can expect nothing of the kind. It would be far too much to hope for. I dare not let myself think of it. Even if the gods themselves willed it, no such good fortune could befall me." Then Athena said, "Telemachus, what do you mean?"
"There is no chance of my father's ever coming back.
The gods have long since counseled his destruction. There is something else, however, about which I should like to ask Nestor, for he knows much more than anyone else does. They say he has reigned for 3 generations, so that it is like talking to an immortal. Tell me so, Nestor, and tell me true. How did Agamemnon come to die in that way? What was Menelaus doing? And how came false Aegisthus to kill so far better a man than himself? At first, she would have nothing to do with his wicked scheme, for she was of a good natural disposition. Moreover, there was a bard with her, to whom Agamemnon had given strict orders on setting out for Troy, that he was to keep guard over his wife. But when the sky had counseled her destruction, Aegisthus carried this bard off to a desert island, and left him there for crows and seagulls to batten upon, after which she went willingly enough to the house of Aegisthus. Then he offered many burnt sacrifices to the gods, and decorated many temples with tapestries and gilding, for he had succeeded far beyond his expectations. When we reached Sunium, the headland of Athens, Apollo struck down Phrontis, the helmsman of Menelaus' ship. No man knew better how to guide a vessel through rough weather. He died there with the helm still in his hand. Menelaus longed to press on, but he had to wait, to bury his comrade and give him the funeral rites he deserved. Then, when Menelaus could put to sea again and had sailed as far as Malea, Zeus sent trouble against him. The wind rose hard, and the waves ran mountain high.
Meanwhile, Aegisthus here at home plotted his evil deed. For 7 years after he had killed Agamemnon, he ruled in Mycene, and the people were obedient unto him. But in the 8th year, Orestes came back from Athens to be his bane, and killed the murderer of his father. Then he celebrated the funeral rites of his mother and of false Aegisthus by a banquet to the people of Argos. And on that very day Menelaus came home with as much treasure as his ships could carry. Take my advice then, and do not go travelling about for long so far from home, nor leave your property with such dangerous people in your house. Go to him, so, by sea, and take your own men with you. Or, if you would rather travel by land, you can have a chariot, you can have horses, and here are my sons who can escort you to Lacedaemon, where Menelaus lives. Beg of him to speak the truth, and he will tell you no lies, for he is an excellent person." As he spoke, the sun set, and it came on dark, and then Athena said, "Sir, all that you have said is well. Now, however, order the tongues of the victims to be cut, and mix wine, that we may make drink offerings to Poseidon and the other immortals, and then go to bed, for it is bedtime." Men servants poured water over the hands of the guests, while servant boys filled the mixing bowls with wine and water, and handed it round after giving every man his drink offering. Then they threw the tongues of the victims into the fire, and stood up to make their drink offerings. When they had made their offerings, and had drunk each as much as he was minded, Athena and Telemachus were for going on board their ship. But Nestor caught them up at once and stayed them. "The sky and the immortal gods," he exclaimed, "forbid that you should leave my house to go on board of a ship. I am the only older person among them. The rest are all young men of Telemachus' own age, who have taken this voyage out of friendship. So I must return to the ship and sleep there,
Moreover, tomorrow I must go to the Ciconians, where I have a large sum of money long owing to me. As for Telemachus, now that he is your guest, send him to Lacedaemon in a chariot, and let one of your sons go with him. Be pleased to also provide him with your best and fleetest horses." When she had thus spoken, she flew away in the form of an eagle, and all marveled as they beheld it. Nestor was astonished, and took Telemachus by the hand. "This can have been none other of those who dwell in the sky than Zeus's redoubtable daughter, the Trito-born, who showed such favor towards your brave father among the Greeks. Holy Queen," he continued, "vouchsafe to send down thy grace upon myself, my good wife, and my children. In return, I will offer you in sacrifice a broad-browed heifer of a year old, unbroken, and never yet brought by man under the yoke. I will gild her horns, and will offer her up to you in sacrifice." Thus did he pray, and Athena heard his prayer. He then led the way to his own house, followed by his sons and sons-in-law. Then, when they had made their drink offerings and had drunk each as much as he was minded, the others went home to bed, each in his own abode. But Nestor put Telemachus to sleep in the room that was over the gateway, along with Pisistratus, who was the only unmarried son now left him. As for himself, he slept in an inner room of the house, with the queen his wife by his side. Now when the child of morning, rosy-fingered dawn appeared, Nestor left his couch and took a seat on the benches of white and polished marble that stood in front of his house. "Go then, one or other of you to the plain. Tell the stockman to look me out a heifer, and come on here with it at once. Another must go to Telemachus's ship and invite all the crew, leaving 2 men only in charge of the vessel. Someone else will run and fetch Laertius the goldsmith to gild the horns of the heifer. The rest, stay all of you where you are. Tell the maids in the house to prepare an excellent dinner, and to fetch seats and logs of wood for a burnt offering. Tell them also to bring me some clear spring water." On this they hurried off on their several errands. Then Stratius and Achephron brought her in by the horns. Aratus fetched water from the house in a jug that had a flower pattern on it, and in his other hand he held a basket of barley meal. Sturdy Thrasymedes stood by with his sharp axe, ready to strike the heifer, while Perseus held a bucket. Then Nestor began, with washing his hands and sprinkling the barley meal, and he offered many a prayer to Athena as he threw a lock from the heifer's head upon the fire. They cut out the thigh bones, all in due course, wrapped them round in 2 layers of fat, and set some pieces of raw food on the top of them. Then Nestor laid them upon the wood fire and poured wine over them, while the young men stood near him with 5-pronged spits in their hands. When the thighs were burned, and they had tasted the inward meats, they cut the rest of the food up small, put the pieces on the spits, and toasted them over the fire. Meanwhile, lovely Polycaste, Nestor's youngest daughter, washed Telemachus. The housekeeper packed them up a provision of bread, wine, and sweetmeats fit for the sons of princes. Then Telemachus got into the chariot, while Pisistratus gathered up the reins and took his seat beside him. He lashed the horses on, and they flew forward nothing loath into the open country, leaving the high citadel of Pylos behind them. All that day did they travel, swaying the yoke upon their necks till the sun went down and darkness was over all the land. Then they reached Phere, where Diocles lived, who was son to Autolycus and grandson to Alpheus. Here they passed the night, and Diocles entertained them hospitably. They reached the low-lying city of Lacedaemon, where they drove straight to the abode of Menelaus, and found him in his own house. Feasting with his many clansmen in honor of the wedding of his son, and also of his daughter, whom he was marrying to the son of that valiant warrior Achilles. He had given his consent, and promised her to him while he was still at Troy, and now the gods were bringing the marriage about. So he was sending her with chariots and horses to the city of the Myrmidons, over whom Achilles' son was reigning. For his only son he had found a bride from Sparta, the daughter of Elector.
Telemachus and the son of Nestor stayed their horses at the gate, and then Eteoneus, servant to Menelaus, came out, and as soon as he saw them, ran hurrying back into the house to tell his master. He went close up to him and said, "Menelaus, there are some strangers come here, 2 men, who look like sons of Zeus. What are we to do? Shall we take their horses out, or tell them to find friends elsewhere as they best can?" Menelaus was very angry and said, "Eteoneus, son of Boethos, you never used to be a fool, but now you talk like a simpleton. Take their horses out, of course, and show the strangers in that they may have supper." Then they leaned the chariot against the end wall of the courtyard and led the way into the house. Telemachus and Pisistratus were astonished when they saw it, for its splendor was as that of the sun and moon. Then, when they had admired everything to their heart's content, they went into the bathroom and washed themselves. When the servants had washed them and anointed them with oil, they brought them woolen cloaks and shirts, and the 2 took their seats by the side of Menelaus. A servant woman brought them water in a beautiful golden jug, and poured it into a silver basin for them to wash their hands. And she drew a clean table beside them. "You must be descended from a line of scepter-bearing kings, for poor people do not have such sons as you are." On this he handed them a piece of fat roast loin, which had been set near him as being a prime part, and they laid their hands on the food set before them. As soon as they had had enough to eat and drink, Telemachus said to the son of Nestor, with his head so close that no one might hear, "Look, Pisistratus, man after my own heart, see the gleam of bronze and gold, of amber, ivory and silver. Everything is so splendid that it is like seeing the palace of Olympian Zeus. I went to Cyprus, Phoenicia and the Egyptians. I went also to the Ethiopians, the Sidonians and the Erymbians, and to Libya where the lambs have horns as soon as they are born, and the sheep lamb down 3 times a year. Everyone in that country, whether master or man, has plenty of cheese, food, and good milk, for the ewes yield all the year round. But while I was traveling and getting great riches among these people, my brother was secretly and shockingly murdered through the perfidy of his wicked wife, so that I have no pleasure in being lord of all this wealth. Yet grieve for these as I may, I do so for one man more than for them all. I cannot even think of him without loathing both food and sleep, so miserable does he make me. For no one of all the Greeks worked so hard or risked so much as he did. He took nothing by it, and has left a legacy of sorrow to myself, for he has been gone a long time, and we know not whether he is alive or dead. While he was thus in 2 minds, Helen came down from her high, vaulted and perfumed room, looking as lovely as Artemis herself. Adraste brought her a seat, Alcippe a soft woolen rug, while Philo fetched her the silver work-box which Alcandra, wife of Polybus, had given her. Polybus lived in Egyptian Thebes, which is the richest city in the whole world. He gave Menelaus 2 baths, both of pure silver, 2 tripods, and 10 talents of gold. Besides all this, his wife gave Helen some beautiful presents, to wit, a golden distaff, and a silver work-box that ran on wheels, with a gold band round the top of it. Never have I seen any man or woman so like another person. When I look at him, I hardly know what to think. This young man is like Telemachus, whom Odysseus left as a baby when you Greeks sailed to Troy with battle in your hearts, all because of my shameless self. My dear wife, replied Menelaus, I see the likeness just as you do. His hands and feet are just like Odysseus. So is his hair, the shape of his head, and the expression of his eyes. A son has always trouble at home when his father has gone away, leaving him without supporters. And this is how Telemachus is now placed, for his father is absent, and there is no one among his own people to stand by him. Bless my heart, replied Menelaus. Then I am receiving a visit from the son of a very dear friend, who suffered much hardship for my sake. I had always hoped to entertain him with most marked distinction when the sky had granted us a safe return from beyond the seas. I should have founded a city for him in Argos and built him a house. Helen wept. Telemachus wept. And so did Menelaus, nor could Pisistratus keep his eyes from filling, when he remembered his dear brother Antilochus, whom the son of bright dawn had killed. Then he said to Menelaus, Sir, my father Nestor, when we used to talk about you at home, told me you were a person of rare and excellent understanding. If, then, it be possible, do as I would urge you. I am not fond of crying while I am getting my supper. Morning will come in due course, and in the forenoon I care not how much I cry for those that are dead and gone. This is all we can do for the poor things. One can soon see when a man is son to one whom sky has blessed, both as regards wife and offspring. And it has blessed Nestor from first to last all his days, giving him a green old age in his own house, with sons about him who are both well-disposed and valiant. We will put an end so to all this weeping, and attend to our supper again. Let water be poured over our hands. Telemachus and I can talk with one another fully in the morning. On this, Asphalion, one of the servants, poured water over their hands, and they laid their hands on the food set before them. Then Zeus's daughter Helen thought of another matter. The drug had been given to Helen by Polydamna, wife of Thon, a woman of Egypt. In Egypt all kinds of herbs grow, some good for the mixing bowl, and others poisonous. There every physician is skilled, for they are of the race of Paeon. When Helen had put the drug into the wine and told the servants to serve it round, she said, Menelaus, son of Atreus, and you, my good friends, sons of honorable men, Zeus gives both good and evil as he chooses. Feast here as you will, and listen while I tell you a tale in season. In this disguise he entered the city of Troy, and no one said anything to him. I alone recognized him and began to question him, but he was too cunning for me. When, however, I had washed and anointed him and had given him clothes, and after I had sworn a solemn oath not to betray him to the Trojans till he had got safely back to his own camp and to the ships, he told me all that the Greeks meant to do. What endurance, too, and what courage he displayed within the wooden horse, wherein all the bravest of the Greeks were lying in wait to bring death and destruction upon the Trojans. At that moment you came up to us. Some god who wished well to the Trojans must have set you on to it, and you had Deiphobus with you. 3 times did you go all round our hiding place and pat it. You called our chiefs each by his own name, and mimicked all our wives, Diomed, Odysseus, and I from our seats inside heard what a noise you made. But now, sir, be pleased to send us all to bed, that we may lie down and enjoy the blessed boon of sleep. On this, Helen told the maidservants to set beds in the room that was in the gatehouse,
and to make them with good red rugs, and spread coverlets on the top of them with woolen cloaks for the guests to wear. So the maids went out, carrying a torch, and made the beds, to which a servant man soon led the strangers. Thus, then, did Telemachus and Pisistratus sleep there in the forecourt, while the son of Atreus lay in an inner room with lovely Helen by his side. When the child of morning, rosy-fingered dawn, appeared, Menelaus rose and dressed himself. "Tell me all about it." "I have come, sir," replied Telemachus, "to see if you can tell me anything about my father. I am being eaten out of house and home. My fair estate is being wasted, and my house is full of miscreants who keep killing great numbers of my sheep and oxen on the pretense of paying their addresses to my mother. So I am suppliant at your knees, if haply you may tell me about my father's melancholy end, whether you saw it with your own eyes, or heard it from some other traveler, for he was a man born to trouble. Do not soften things out of any pity for myself, but tell me in all plainness exactly what you saw." A hind might as well lay her newborn young in the lair of a lion, and then go off to feed in the forest or in some grassy dell. The lion, when he comes back to his lair, will make short work with the pair of them, and so will Odysseus with these suitors. By Father Zeus, Athena, and Apollo, if Odysseus is still the man that he was when he wrestled with Philomelides in Lesbos, and threw him so heavily that all the Greeks cheered him, if he is still such and were to come near these suitors, they would have a short shrift and a sorry wedding. We should have run clean out of provisions, and my men would have starved, if a goddess had not taken pity upon me and saved me in the person of Ithaca, daughter to Proteus, the old man of the sea, for she had taken a great fancy to me. She came to me one day when I was by myself, as I often was, for the men used to go with their barbed hooks all over the island in the hope of catching a fish or two to save them from the pangs of hunger. "Stranger," said she, "it seems to me that you like starving in this way. Tell me so, for the gods know everything, which of the immortals it is that is hindering me in this way. And tell me also how I may sail the sea so as to reach my home." "Stranger," replied she, "I will make it all quite clear to you. There is an old immortal who lives under the sea hereabouts, and whose name is Proteus. He is an Egyptian, and people say he is my father. He is Poseidon's head man, and knows every inch of ground all over the bottom of the sea. For a god is not easily caught, not by a mortal man." "Stranger," said she, "I will make it all quite clear to you. About the time when the sun shall have reached mid the sky, the old man of the sea comes up from under the waves, heralded by the west wind that furs the water over his head. As soon as he has come up, he lies down and goes to sleep in a great sea cave, where the seals, Halosydne's chickens, as they call them, come up also from the grey sea, and go to sleep in shoals all round him. The moment you see that he is asleep, seize him. Put forth all your strength and hold him fast, for he will do his very utmost to get away from you. He will turn himself into every kind of creature that goes upon the earth, and will become also both fire and water. But you must hold him fast, and grip him tighter and tighter, till he begins to talk to you, and comes back to what he was when you saw him go to sleep. Then you may slacken your hold and let him go." When the child of morning, rosy-fingered dawn appeared, I took the 3 men on whose prowess of all kinds I could most rely, and went along by the seaside, praying heartily to the sky. Meanwhile the goddess fetched me up 4 sealskins from the bottom of the sea, all of them just skinned, for she meant playing a trick upon her father. Then she dug 4 pits for us to lie in, and sat down to wait till we should come up. When we were close to her, she made us lie down in the pits, one after the other, and threw a sealskin over each of us. Our ambuscade would have been intolerable, for the stench of the fishy seals was most distressing. We waited the whole morning and made the best of it, watching the seals come up in hundreds to bask upon the seashore. Till at noon the old man of the sea came up too, and when he had found his fat seals, he went over them and counted them. We were among the first he counted, and he never suspected any guile, but laid himself down to sleep as soon as he had done counting. Then we rushed upon him with a shout and seized him, on which he began at once with his old tricks, and changed himself first into a lion with a great mane. Then all of a sudden he became a dragon, a leopard, a wild boar. It is because I have been kept so long in this island, and see no sign of my being able to get away. I am losing all heart. Tell me then, for you gods know everything, which of the immortals it is that is hindering me, and tell me also how I may sail the sea so as to reach my home. Then, he said, if you would finish your voyage and get home quickly, you must offer sacrifices to Zeus and to the rest of the gods before embarking. You had better not know what I can tell you, for your eyes will surely fill when you have heard my story. Many of those about whom you ask are dead and gone, but many still remain, and only 2 of the chief men among the Greeks perished during their return home. As for what happened on the field of battle, you were there yourself. A 3rd Achaean leader is still at sea, alive, but hindered from returning. Ajax was wrecked, for Poseidon drove him on to the great rocks of Gyrae. Even so, he let him get safe out of the water, and in spite of all Athena's hatred, he would have escaped death if he had not ruined himself by boasting. The base remained where it was, but the part on which Ajax was sitting fell headlong into the sea and carried Ajax with it. So he drank salt water and was drowned. Your brother and his ships escaped, for Hera protected him. But when he was just about to reach the high promontory of Malea, he was caught by a heavy gale, which carried him out to sea again, sorely against his will, and drove him to the foreland where Thyestes used to dwell, but where Aegisthus was then living. After a while, however, it seemed as though he was to return safely after all, for the gods backed the wind into its old quarter, and they reached home. This man had been looking out for a whole year to make sure that Agamemnon did not give him the slip and prepare war. When, so, this man saw Agamemnon go by, he went and told Aegisthus, who at once began to lay a plot for him. He picked 20 of his bravest warriors and placed them in ambuscade on one side the cloister, while on the opposite side he prepared a banquet. Then he sent his chariots and horsemen to Agamemnon and invited him to the feast, but he meant foul play. He got him there, all unsuspicious of the doom that was awaiting him, and killed him when the banquet was over, as though he were butchering an ox in the shambles. Soon, when I had had my fill of weeping and writhing upon the ground, the old man of the sea said, "Son of Atreus, do not waste any more time in crying so bitterly. It can do no manner of good. Find your way home as fast as ever you can, for Aegisthus may be still alive. And even though Orestes has been beforehand with you in killing him, you may yet come in for his funeral." On this I took comfort, in spite of all my sorrow, and said, "I know then about these 2. Tell me so about the 3rd man of whom you spoke. Is he still alive, but at sea, and unable to get home? Or is he dead?"
There fair-haired Rhadamanthus reigns, and men lead an easier life than anywhere else in the world. For in Elysium there falls not rain, nor hail, nor snow. But Oceanus breathes ever with a west wind that sings softly from the sea and gives fresh life to all men. This will happen to you because you have married Helen and are Zeus's son-in-law." As he spoke, he dived under the waves, and then I turned back to the ships with my companions, and my heart was clouded with care as I went along. When we reached the ships, we got supper ready, for night was falling, and camped down upon the beach. "And now for yourself. Stay here some 10 or 12 days longer, and I will then speed you on your way. I will make you a noble present of a chariot and 3 horses. I will also give you a beautiful chalice, that so long as you live, you may think of me whenever you pour a drink offering to the immortal gods." "Son of Atreus," replied Telemachus, "do not press me to stay longer. I should be contented to remain with you for another 12 months. I find your conversation so delightful that I should never once wish myself at home with my parents. But my crew, whom I have left at Pylos, are already impatient, and you are detaining me from them. I will take no horses back with me to Ithaca, but will leave them to adorn your own stables, for you have much flat ground in your kingdom where lotus thrives, as also meadowsweet and wheat and barley, and oats with their white and spreading ears, whereas in Ithaca we have neither open fields nor racecourses, and the country is more fit for goats than horses, and I like it the better for that. None of our islands have much level ground suitable for horses, and Ithaca least of all." Menelaus smiled and took Telemachus's hand within his own. "What you say," said he, "shows that you come of good family." Meanwhile, the suitors were throwing discs or aiming with spears at a mark on the leveled ground in front of Odysseus's house, and were behaving with all their old arrogance. Antinous and Eurymachus, who were their ringleaders and much the foremost among them all, were sitting together when Noëmon, son of Phronius, came up and said to Antinous, "Have we any idea, Antinous, on what day Telemachus returns from Pylos? Tell me also, did you let him have the ship of your own free will because he asked you, or did he take it without your leave?" "I lent it him," answered Noëmon. "What else could I do when a man of his position said he was in a difficulty and asked me to oblige him? I could not possibly refuse. As for those who went with him, they were the best young men we have, and I saw Mentor go on board as captain, or some god who was exactly like him. He will be giving us trouble soon. May Zeus take him before he is full grown. Find me a ship, so, with a crew of 20 men, and I will lie in wait for him in the straits between Ithaca and Samos. He will then rue the day that he set out to try and get news of his father." Thus did he speak, and the others applauded his saying. They then all of them went inside the buildings. It was not long before Penelope came to know what the suitors were plotting. For a servant man, Medon, overheard them from outside the outer court, as they were laying their schemes within, and went to tell his mistress. "Did not your fathers tell you, when you were children, how good Odysseus had been to them, never doing anything high-handed, nor speaking harshly to anybody? Kings may say things sometimes, and they may take a fancy to one man and dislike another, but Odysseus never did an unjust thing by anybody, which shows what bad hearts you have, and that there is no such thing as gratitude left in this world." Then Medon said, "I wish, madam, that this were all, but they are plotting something much more dreadful now.
May the sky frustrate their design.
Does he want to die without leaving anyone behind him to keep up his name?
I do not know, answered Medon, whether some god set him onto it, or whether he went on his own impulse to see if he could find out if his father was dead or alive and on his way home. Then he went downstairs again, leaving Penelope in an agony of grief. There were plenty of seats in the house, but she had no heart for sitting on any one of them. She could only fling herself on the floor of her own room and cry.
You hussies. There was not one of you would so much as think of giving me a call out of my bed, though you all of you very well knew when he was starting. If I had known he meant taking this voyage, he would have had to give it up, no matter how much he was bent upon it, or leave me a corpse behind him, one or other. Now, however, go some of you and call old Dolius, who was given me by my father on my marriage, and who is my gardener. I knew all about it, and gave him everything he wanted in the way of bread and wine. But he made me take my solemn oath that I would not tell you anything for some 10 or 12 days, unless you asked, or happened to hear of his having gone, for he did not want you to spoil your beauty by crying. And now, madam, wash your face, change your dress, and go upstairs with your maids to offer prayers to Athena, daughter of Aegis-bearing Zeus, for she can save him, even though he be in the jaws of death. Do not trouble Laertes. He has trouble enough already. If ever Odysseus, while he was here, burned you fat thigh bones of sheep or heifer, bear it in mind now as in my favour, and save my darling son from the villainy of the suitors. She cried aloud as she spoke, and the goddess heard her prayer. Meanwhile the suitors were clamorous throughout the covered cloister, and one of them said, "The queen is preparing for her marriage with one or other of us. Little does she dream that her son has now been doomed to die." This was what they said, but they did not know what was going to happen. Then Antinous said, "Comrades, let there be no loud talking, lest some of it get carried inside." Then they made the ship fast a little way out, came on shore again, got their suppers, and waited till night should fall. But Penelope lay in her own room upstairs, unable to eat or drink, and wondering whether her brave son would escape or be overpowered by the wicked suitors. Like a lioness caught in the toils with huntsmen hemming her in on every side, she thought and thought till she sank into a slumber, and lay on her bed bereft of thought and motion. Then Athena thought of another matter, and made a vision in the likeness of Penelope's sister Iphthime, daughter of Icarius, who had married Eumelus and lived in Phyrae. "Your son has done them no wrong, so he will yet come back to you." Penelope, who was sleeping sweetly at the gates of dreamland, answered, "Sister, why have you come here? You do not come very often, but I suppose that is because you live such a long way off. Am I then to leave off crying, and refrain from all the sad thoughts that torture me? I, who have lost my brave and lion-hearted husband, who had every good quality under the sky, and whose name was great over all Hellas and middle Argos. There is one gone with him whom many a man would be glad enough to have stand by his side. I mean Athena. It is she who has compassion upon you, and who has sent me to bear you this message." "Then," said Penelope, "if you are a god, or have been sent here by divine commission, tell me also about that other unhappy one. Is he still alive, or is he already dead and in the house of Hades?" And the vision said, I shall not tell you for certain whether he is alive or dead, and there is no use in idle conversation. Then it vanished through the thong hole of the door and was dissipated into thin air.